You're listening to Real Facts on Real Estate with Sean Patrick Maloney.
That sounds good.
Welcome to episode 34, Expand Your Reach. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Maloney. Thanks for joining me this week. This week I want to talk to you about a topic that I always think about. It's funny, back in the day in real estate, we would always work one town. We'd be the agent for whatever town it was that we grew up in, and we were always a townie in. And over time now, that has changed, and some agents are unwilling to accept that change. I'm going to talk about the modern day ways to become a townie, what a townie means, and the expansion of the term townie, and how many towns you should be covering depending on the area you're within. So let's start back at the beginning. When we were a townie back in the day, some of the best ways to be one was to hang out at a local bar, go to local events, be a member of the parent-teacher organizations, go to town hall, make sure you're at the vote, make sure you're at any of the town events, go to breakfast at the same place, sit at the same seats, get dinner in the same spot, talk with the local people. These were all great ways to have people recognize you for who you were and what you did. You could mention to people that you were in real estate, and you could make sure that they always saw you involved in everything. The school system to the town hall, they knew if something was going on in town, you were there. The other important part of being a townie was to know everything going on in town, to read the local newspaper, and to ensure that you knew every event going on. That way, when someone talked to you, you could ask them questions like, are you going to go to the vote tonight at town hall, and other things like that, which proved not only were you a townie, but you knew what was going on, and you were part of the inner circle of everything that was known as that town. This has kind of changed over the years. Not as many people go out to eat in the same places because there's more places than ever. Not as many people go out to the same bars because, again, there's more bars than ever. Town hall even has issues having enough people to actually take a vote a lot of times. Going out to all these different breakfast places and everything, again, same thing as the bars and the dinner. There's more places than ever. Going to local events is still important, but again, in a world where there's tens of thousands of people rather than thousands of people, it's really hard to stand out, and it's really hard to communicate with people because more than ever, everybody is within their devices, within the computer, not as present, and also a lot more scared of each other than ever. Going up back in the day at a town event and talking with everybody, they used to say you were the mayor of the town, meaning that you knew everybody and you talked to everybody. Now, a lot of times people kind of look at you like, who's that guy trying to talk to me? I don't know who he is, or I don't know who she is. Why would they think they can talk to me? So those things have changed a bit. Not that they don't work, but they've just kind of altered their course. Facebook groups is a new one. That's a big thing to do with getting involved in a town. You can either run a group or you can be a contributor within a group, but basically a Facebook group is a group of people who are interested in the same thing. And sometimes you'll see that they're actually tied to a town, such as something where it's a group that says yard sale XYZ town, or it may say runners of Massachusetts, or just different groups for different areas as well as different hobbies. What I suggest you do is either run a group that you can run that you know a lot about the topic, or just be a major contributor in a group that already exists. When you're doing this, you're not doing just real estate sales and just telling people, hey, I do real estate, come buy from me. What you're doing is you're getting involved so that people see you within that group, within that area, and they know of you just like they would have known of you when you sat on that local bar stool or you went to that local dinner or breakfast place, and you're always there. You're always the one contributing to the group. One of the important things to remember when you're a group contributor or you run a group is to make sure that your Facebook profile is public, and that within your Facebook profile it talks about where you work, what you do, and has some examples of some success stories. A lot of agents and different people, mortgage brokers and whatnot, in real estate hide what they do. I'm not sure why. I think it's an old school thought process of I'm not going to let other people have my information and I'm going to hide. I'm just going to put it if you're friends with me, you can see. The problem with this is when somebody goes to look at your profile and audit who you are and what you do, they don't see anything, so they don't know about it. Running my Facebook group for real estate professionals that goes along with this podcast here, Real Facts on Real Estate Group, I end up going to look at people's profiles because I want to make sure that everybody that joins the group is within real estate in some way, shape, or form, and I can't even find what the person does, which tells me that if I was a consumer and I was out there looking at this person's profile, I wouldn't even know to ask them about real estate. which is a shame. So you want to make sure as a top contributor or as someone running the group that it's very easy for when they get to your profile, they're not only seeing what you do if they go into your about, but they're also seeing it intermittently, not all the time, but intermittently throughout your posting. When they look through maybe the last 2 weeks of your feed wall, they see some posts about maybe coming soons, maybe solds, open houses, maybe just another photo with another coworker, things like that. Stuff that tells them, oh wow, this person does real estate, and not only do they do it, but they're actually involved in it. So that's one of the things you got to keep in mind is when people meet us on the internet, because they're not meeting us in person, they do an audit. They type your name into Google, they see what comes up. Does real estate related items come up, or does nothing come up? If nothing comes up, then you might want to work on that as well and continue to grow the amount of information out there about you in real estate. Another way to do this is to have a podcast or a blog, so that way those also come up when they search your name. When you are a contributor, you want to remember throughout the entire process of being a contributor or someone running a group that you need to keep engagement up. It's a big thing. You don't want to just contribute things that are one-offs that no one needs to reply to, that no one needs to go. You want to talk about those topics that are going to get other people to reply with you, other people to continue on the conversation, and just a lot of activity. By doing that, you're actually going to attract a lot of attention to yourself. Facebook groups are not the only way, of course, to be a townie. You got to remember, digital marketing is a huge one. Digital marketing runs throughout the entire internet. Everything from YouTube ads to Facebook, Instagram, social media, such as TikTok, Instagram, and all the others. They're all great places where people are spending a ton of their time, and for relatively an inexpensive amount of money, you can get a giant reach. Sometimes we're putting up ads because we actually are doing call to actions, but other times we're just putting up like a townie ad, basically a billboard. That localized thought process of you are educating them that you're in real estate, and then that's what you do, and these are the areas I'm within. So like I said at the beginning of the podcast here, a lot of people back in the day worked one town. Let's talk a little bit further about that. In some areas, one town is plenty. If you're in Boston, it's very easy to say, not only do I not only just work one town, I work one district of one town. But in an area like I live, where we're on the South Shore, and we only have between 5,000 and 30,000 people per town, it can be very risky to run in one town. With over 100 agents in most towns and so little turnover in most towns, it can mean that you can sit really slow and idle because you put all your eggs in one basket and market it to only one town. Personally, myself, I have 5 houses under agreement, and all 5 are in different towns, anywhere from 10 minutes from here to an hour from here. You need to find an acceptable distance that you're willing to travel, and that way there you know ahead of time, and you can run your digital media ads as well as your Facebook groups and everything to coincide with the areas you're going to travel to. When you're working that, if you get people outside of it, remember, you have the ability for referrals. Referrals are a huge part of the business. If you're hearing from somebody, I want to buy in New Hampshire, and you're not licensed in New Hampshire, and you just tell them, sorry, I'm not licensed in New Hampshire, you just gave away 25% of a deal versus going and saying to the person, you know, I don't work in New Hampshire, but I do a lot of deals, and I do know a lot of people. Let me look through my Rolodex, let me look through my contacts, and I will get you a name and number that you can contact, and then you can set up a referral deal. This also will help you grow your network because of the fact that when you give referrals, you're going to get referrals. And when that person has somebody over the border that they can't work with on your side, they're going to send them over to you. But again, knowing where to have a referral versus where you should go really depends on your lifestyle. I personally don't have any children or anything, and I'm able to work more often, so I don't mind driving a little further. Where if you're a mom of 5, you may have to think about how am I going to have enough time to travel an hour, and your referral network may actually be closer. That's a decision that you need to make. But know that on a referral, you only take 1/4 or so of the deal, depending on the agreement, versus 100%. So there's a huge difference. But again, if it's outside your area, you're better to do a great job by giving a great referral than to do a bad job because you can't show up when you go outside your area. And when you're doing these homes and you're thinking about going further, you got to remember, you got to avoid promising the accompanying of showings. So a lot of agents back in the day wanted to accompany everything. I'm not sure why. They think that they can show the house better than somebody else, or they want to be there for the security of the home, or all these different things. The reality is none of that's actually true. And yes, there are some unique homes where you need to be there and you need to be there to show them exactly what maybe different buttons do, how to get at certain places. Maybe your client has put in an audio system that you want to show off, or different things that maybe people wouldn't know. But more often than not, the other agent will do a perfectly fine job showing the home. And if you feel like the agent isn't trustworthy to actually show the home, then you probably shouldn't be getting in a real estate deal with them. So if you're worried about theft and things like that, then you probably just shouldn't actually show that agent whether you accompany them or not. Because if the person's going to steal small items out of the home, chances are they're not going to actually purchase the home. So just keep that in mind. And by avoiding promising accompanying, you can go a little bit further without having to worry. Because the reality is, in the modern day world, we don't drive everywhere all the time. When I first started in real estate, we used to drive everywhere. We'd drive the check over, we'd drive over to get signatures, we'd drop off contracts in person, we'd drop the check off in person, we'd go and pick up things. Nowadays, typically I show the home, first visit. I go to the home inspection if I'm on the buyer's side. If I'm on the seller's side, I don't. On the seller's side, I go to the open houses. I don't go to the showings. And then the next point where I go is I go to pick up the check if I need to, but most often it goes through the mail now. And then we go to the closing. So reality-wise, buyer's agent's side might visit a house anywhere from 2 to 5 times. Seller's agent's side, depending on how long the listing lasts, anywhere from as few as 5 to as many as 25 visits, and 25 visits being one that won't sell, and I'm consistently doing open houses. But then think about the open houses as I'm not trying to sell that home. Yes, I'm trying to sell that home, but it's an option where I'm trying to meet more buyers. So I'm actually getting benefit from the travel, so it's not that big of a deal. Whereas some people see it as a waste of time to go sit there for the open houses. It's because they're not doing enough marketing on their open houses. And we do talk about that in a previous episode, and we'll talk about it in future episodes. But just remember, avoiding promising to do the accompanied showings or to accompany the home inspection will save you quite a bit of time when you're doing this. One other way other than digital media and Facebook groups to expand your reach would be Zillow, Realtor, and some of the other paid sources like ZBuyer or Real Geeks. These are ways to expand your search area out by buying basically digital media ads, but through other companies. Some people call them buying leads. I argue to differ, because if you're going to call it buying leads, then how is it any different than when you pay a newspaper company and someone calls you, did you not buy that lead? Some people call that marketing versus a Zillow, Realtor, or other ones that actually give you real live customers. People say, oh, well, those are buying leads. There's no real time where you're buying leads. You're just literally paying for digital marketing. But with Zillow and Realtor and Real Geeks and others, one of the reasons that I say to be willing to expand your reach is sometimes you're in a town, say there's a town next to me here, Duxbury, Massachusetts, where when you look on any of those websites, the ROI on that town is about a 1.1 or 1.2, which means you give them $1 to get $1.10 or $1.20 back. When you go through the long-term math of your business, you'll realize that you're losing money by buying those leads. Whereas just a few towns over, you may have a 4x return, which means you give them $1 and they give you $4 back. So by expanding your reach, you're actually able to market in some areas that have better returns and to grow your business. One thing about these different ways of growing your business is Zillow, Realtor, Real Geeks, and all the others, they actually allow you to reach more closings. And when you're closing more and you're advertising your closing more, it brings up everybody's interest. So you can advertise all your closings, even though they didn't happen within the town of Duxbury. You can advertise all the time in the town of Duxbury through your social media and digital media ads, saying closing, coming soon, all these other things, which indicate to those people that you're busy, which slowly but surely they're going to gain trust in you and you're going to do more business in the town that you're trying to get in. So by expanding your reach in the long run, after you build up a successful business, you can narrow your reach by having more power and having more people trust you to do business for them. So this is a really big thing. on your younger years when it's easier to travel and you're just starting off and you're looking to close deals, you continue to expand your reach. And then as you get older, you continue to expand your referral network and narrow your reach so that you can be more picky because you're closing more deals and you can narrow in. But don't ever narrow in too far, because if you narrow in too far and the market takes any fluctuations, then it can mean the death of your business because you have not focused on growing your business wide enough. I would say the current day environment really calls for, as long as you're within an hour of a place, especially here in Massachusetts where we have gas is affordable, travel is pretty easy, traffic is fairly light depending on the area, and it's easy enough to know those areas because you can study them on things like Google and Wikipedia and others. You can find out a lot about the town as you're heading there. You can go on to Yelp and others and look at the local restaurants. So by circling out that hour, it gives you a lot more clients within your prospective area. Again, thinking maybe in Quincy or areas like that, we have about 100,000 or more people. Those are areas where you can probably focus on the one town. But even then, I still wonder, why would you, if you can reach out over to a Braintree or Weymouth within 15-20 minutes and get a deal done? So keep that in mind. Widening it out will help you out. The other thing is, most people's circle of influences are no longer just, oh, I know everybody in Weymouth. Face it, we all move around and we move around often. We're moving for jobs, we're moving for amenities, we're moving for a lot of different reasons. If you, any town that your circle of influence is in, you should be doing business in that town, at least within that hour range or whatever you're comfortable with. By doing that, it's going to tell your circle of influence, I'm willing to work with your circle of influence, meaning friends and family, within those ranges, which is a good way to actually expand it out. It's really hard to have circle of influence marketing and have it just be one town. Yes, if you're a true old school townie and you've never left the town and you stay exactly put, maybe your circle of influence is really small. But the reality is most of us' circle of influence isn't. So again, not to dilute your circle of influence by having just available one town, you can have multiple towns. And that can end up leading to a point where you grow your circle of influence through other people's circles and you grow your business. So keep in mind that no matter what you're doing with your business, you want to make it clear to everybody that you go there. This is a big mistake as people expand their reach and they go further than ever. When you're doing this and you're doing it successfully, make sure that your circle of influence, your past clients, all these different people know you go there. So I'm going to finish it out by talking about one last subject, which is when you're closing out homes, you want to let people know, yeah, I go there. If you've ever watched my social media marketing, if you ever watch my different ads that I put out about the 5 houses I have under agreement things, you'll notice I use hashtags like I go there, or I put in a comment of I travel anywhere, and I mention to everybody all the different towns in the state that I've closed in. I share the map where my pins are to show people all the different closings I had. When I go on a showing with a client, I'll mention to them, oh yeah, I was down in Provincetown the other day, and I went over to Norwood the other day. Reason I'm doing this, and this is a key thing to remember, is I don't ever want to learn about a client of mine thinking they're saving me time because they called another agent because they went to an area that I quote unquote don't service. And if you don't believe this happens, you can talk to a lot of agents who have learned the hard way that their client ended up closing with another agent on a house that they thought was too far to ask them to travel to. So by telling people through your marketing and in person that you're willing to go there and that you're willing to travel, that's going to save you from reading about a closing that you should have been taken care of. I hope this helps you expand your reach in real estate, and I hope you learn to grow your business with success. Make sure to always let everybody know how far you go and what you're willing to do, and you'll find much success. And then be willing to work that referral network, and remember, referring gets referrals, and that will help you grow as well. Please make sure to follow the podcast. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me through DM, PM, phone call, email, whatever works best for you. Have a great week, and I will talk to you next week. Thank you so much.